Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Hey, delighted to have back with us today Ted Shoebat. He's the son of Wallet Shoebat. We've had both of these gentlemen on quite a few times, and delighted to have Ted back with us today. He's authored a couple of books, and perhaps you picked them up. The first one, actually, he wrote at the age of 16, In Satan's Footsteps, and then followed it up with For God or For Tyranny. And this guy has got his fingers on what's happening in the Middle East and ISIS. Ted, good to see you. How you doing, my friend?
Good to be on, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you. Fine, doing great. Well, listen, a lot to talk about. First of all, your response to the president announcing that he wants to send an additional 450 troops over to fight ISIS. Hello? What's that mean?
Well, I just think that it's a result of the terrible and completely absent-minded strategy in the American strategy, the Western strategy in general in the Middle East. The Middle East is a tribal culture. I'm sure many of you guys know that already. It's a tribal culture. And so you only have, when it comes to governing the Middle East, you only have two choices. You can either have the Middle East be governed by tribes who are not Islamists, who are loyal to their leaders, their clan leaders, loyal to the dictator, whoever is ruling the country, and they will fight to the death for that dictator. Or you can have universalist Islamists. By universalist, I mean people who want everyone to be Muslim, everyone to speak Arabic, everyone to worship Allah, everyone to follow the one prophet, all of that. Speak one language like the Tower of Babel. That's the only two choices you have. Bush and Obama both went against the tribal leaders of the Middle East, because when you study Iraq before Bush invaded Iraq, there was a tribe called the Abu Nasr tribe. This was the most powerful tribe in Iraq, and it's the tribe that Saddam came from. They were extremely loyal to Saddam. They never harmed Christians, never went through their minds to lay a hand on Christians. And yet Bush went against this tribe, helped kill Saddam, got rid of them, and now guess what? You got rid of the fabric that was keeping the Islamists in line, keeping the Islamists in check, scaring them, really. Scaring them into submission. That fabric that kept the country in control, and now you're dealing with the Islamists. So you can send all the soldiers you want. You're going to have more American soldiers dead. You've had thousands of American soldiers killed already. You're going to have more American soldiers dead. And now I read in the news that these American soldiers are going to be training more Sunnis in Iraq. Well, guess what? Those Sunnis that Bush trained went out and used their training and are now helping ISIS to kill the Shiite, to kill the Christians, to kill the Yazidis. And now, guess what? You're going to train more Sunnis. They're going to use that training against you. So it's I like to call it a never-ending circle of destruction. You make the same mistake. It's that very same demon that they keep worshiping, and that demon keeps manipulating them. That demon keeps lying to them, and they keep believing the lies. And it's just a never-ending circle of destruction. It all stems from one belief, and that is religion is insignificant. We treat religion as insignificant. And that is the religion of Islam. As long as the religion of Islam is the dominant force involved, you're going to have problems. So they need to not work with the Sunnis. They need to work with the tribal powers in Iraq, just like they should do the same thing in Libya, same situation. They're not working with the tribes. They're working with the Sunnis. When Bush was controlling Iraq, they were working with the Al-Badr brigade, the Al-Mahdi army, which was a Shiite terrorist group. They're always working with the wrong people. They're not working with the tribes.
All right. I think you commented yesterday on a declaration that ISIS has made now that they can smuggle a nuclear bomb into the United States across the Mexican border. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, it's very possible, and we have to make sure that the border is secure. This is why the securing the border is so important. And they are talking about working with the drug cartel. And listen, I have been writing since 2007. I have been writing on the interaction between the drug cartels in Central and South America and Muslim terrorists. We know for a fact that we have Muslim terrorists working in Bolivia and Venezuela and Mexico. We know for a fact that the drug cartel makes deals with Islamists. The Islamists provide the drug cartel with weapons. Drug cartel provides the Islamists with drugs. The Islamists sell the drugs to get more money to buy more weapons. That's how it works. There's most definitely a relationship there. So it's very possible that they can work with the drug cartel to smuggle in terrorists, to smuggle in weapons. Now, ISIS is saying that they're going to buy a nuke from Pakistan. I don't think so. I don't think the Pakistani government would ever be willing to sell a nuke to ISIS, because Pakistan right now, the Pakistani government is fighting ISIS. They're actually arresting ISIS agents in Pakistan, in their country. So I don't think they would sell a nuke to ISIS. I wouldn't go that far. But could ISIS be working with the drug cartel to smuggle in weapons and terrorists across the border? Absolutely, yes.
Because they got the money to do it.
Yeah, they have the connections.
Yeah.
And the other thing that go ahead, sorry.
All right. All right. Now, it appears, from my perspective, and you can comment on this, that that our president has no significant plan to battle ISIS, to the point where it almost like it's the opposite. He seems to be appeasing ISIS.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why?
Well, I just want to comment on one point. Appeasing ISIS is a good point, because I just want to make just tell the audience something they may not know. The current dictator of Egypt, al-Sisi, who was much better than what we had before with the Muslim Brotherhood, al-Sisi is arresting Muslim Brotherhood agents and also ISIS agents in his country. And Obama recently went before Congress and said that the Egyptian government is treating their prisoners terribly. They need air conditioning and comfort, and they need convenient conditions and all this nonsense. So you're right, Obama is appeasing them. He's not supporting al-Sisi. He's not supporting the tribes who are killing the terrorists. He's not supporting the Christian militias in Iraq and Syria currently, like Dawak Nasha and the Nineveh Plains protection units, all these Christian militias. He's not supporting any of them. So you're right, it's appeasement. Why is he appeasing it? This may sound controversial, but I think that Obama is, for one, I think he is following a plan that America has had since the 80s, which is to get rid of all of the Soviet-influenced leaders in the Middle East to establish more American dominance. That I do believe, but I also believe that Obama is using this strategy to advance an Islamic agenda, because I believe that he is a Muslim. I don't think that he's a Christian. His own Reverend Wright, said he never converted to Christianity. He was always a Muslim. When you hear Obama saying that the most beautiful thing he's heard is the call to prayer, he can recite the call to prayer in perfect classical Arabic. We know that he speaks Arabic. I mean, it's just obvious. And the way he never really directly attacks the ideology of ISIS. He says, ISIS is bad, but don't forget, you Christians have done some horrible things. Like, what? It's so out of line. It's unreal. And so it's obvious to me he's not a Christian. I believe that this man is a Muslim and that he's advancing an Islamist agenda. I think it's just...
By the way, to our viewers and our listeners, Shoebat, SHOEBAT.com is Ted's website if you want to go there, SHOEBAT.com. All right, Ted, before I run out of time, can you give us an update of Christian persecution in the Middle East?
Yes, absolutely. Just Wednesday last week, this really was quite obscure in the news. ISIS kidnapped 86 Christians. Now remember, they kidnapped 21 Coptic Christians a while back. Then they kidnapped 28 Ethiopian Christians. What happened to all of them? They were beheaded and there was a video made out of them. Now last week on Wednesday, ISIS in Libya captured 86 Eritrean Christians from the African nation of Eritrea, which is quite a Christian country. Many Christians live there. And we don't know what happened to them. We don't know their whereabouts. We don't know what their fate has been. But it looks like they're going to do another video, but this time not with 21, not with 28, but with 86. So it's going to be a mass pool of blood. It's going to be a mass slaughter. And I believe that they're going to kill these people.
We're hearing women and children included.
Women and children included, yes.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ted. Keep up your writing, and most of your writing is available there at the website?
Absolutely. Every day we're updating it.
Okay. Thanks, my friend. Let's get together soon again, okay?
Absolutely. God bless you, sir.
You too. Thank you. Shoebat, SHOEBAT.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, theDove.us.
Okay, welcome back, and delighted to have back with us today Treva Kuyper. She heads up the Loft. She's one of the co-leaders at the Loft, and one of the great ministries of Southern Oregon, reaching out to girls from the ages of, schools from 8th grade through 12th grade. And you're coming up to the last one. How's it been so far?
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful, yes. Our last Loft of this year is this Sunday night at 5:30 at Community Bible Church. And then we take the summer off and we start up again in September.
Okay, and by the way, even though it's the last one, you can still attend, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yep.
Just show up 5:30 there, Community Bible Church in Central Point. All right, special ministry reaching out to teen girls, 8th grade through 12th grade. And your subject is, for the final?
It's Dear Teen Self. So the idea is all of our leaders have written letters to their teenage self. And the girls are going to get a booklet with all of these letters. And, you know, as we get older, we often think, wow, I wish I would have known back then. Mm-hmm. So we want to impart that wisdom to our girls to give them hope and encouragement for their future, whatever they're going through right now, currently. 20 years from now, they're not going to be going through it.
Yeah.
And they can walk in victory. And that's our hope for this Sunday.
Did you write one?
I did write one.
Can you share it?
Well, I don't have it memorized, but I think one of the biggest things that I put in my letter, since my mom passed away 4 years ago, so at 37 years old, I had no parents. And I think in there, what I wanted to impart to the girls is even when your parents disappoint you, even when they're not giving you your way and you don't understand, spend time with them. Show them grace, show them forgiveness. Don't sever a relationship with your parents because you just don't know how long you'll have them with you.
The main purpose of the Loft is to reach out to these girls in a very strategic time in their life, a very difficult time in their life, from 8th grade to 12th grade. And I think those of us who are older will say, I don't think I could go through it today. I don't think I could raise children today. How difficult is it to be a teenage girl between 8th grade and 12th grade?
Oh, it's so difficult. I think every decade there's the difficulties. I think there's sin in the world and we all face those challenges. But I think even now in our culture that says, do whatever you feel like doing, do whatever makes you happy. We're going to support you if you're celebrating anything that you feel like celebrating in your life. And what happens is our culture doesn't pick up the pieces when those things go wrong. Mm-hmm. They're not there to pick up the pieces when tragedy happens, when the girls make decisions to have sex before they're married, or they have an eating disorder because they want to be skinny because the culture is saying that's beautiful. So as the culture warps their perception, then the girls, they need that hope and that encouragement. The world isn't there to help them navigate through, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help them all year navigate through these different scenarios in their life, and so they don't get stuck in that really dark place.
You know, Treva, one of the things that keep popping up in all the shows that we do and the various interviews and topics is here we live in this high-tech world, and I know that you deal with that. Mm-hmm. You deal with cell phones and Twitters and social media. But isn't it interesting, as connected as we are, the number one emotion is loneliness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are these girls lonely in the middle of all this crowd?
Yes, they're lonely and they are overwhelmed, I think, with anxiety and stress because all of that connecting disconnects them from people and from relationships. So that causes that loneliness. And then it also causes anxiety and worry because they're constantly being fed information. And I think that loneliness also causes them to reach out, kind of grasping at straws for things to fill them and things to make them happy, or people or boys or girls to fill that relationship. And we are constantly pointing them back to Jesus Christ. We share the gospel every month at the Loft, and because we know that to walk in victory and to have encouragement, to fight the loneliness, to fight against what the culture is telling us is true, we need Jesus Christ. There is no truth without him.
Yeah. You know, you went through a lot of topics. I don't know, did one ring a bell more than others this go around?
You know, I think that the topic that we did on online safety and etiquette was a very practical topic. But we had a police officer come and share safety issues with the girls and different stories of predators that are out there that have been arrested, and how that played out in some young people's lives. And I think that was the most impactful for our girls.
Really?
They had no idea that, well, they might have had an inkling, but
that these wolves are out there.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, people that are friending them on Facebook or following them on Twitter that present themselves as one person, but really it's a 40-year-old predator, you know. And so I think that that was eye-opening for them. I know a lot of girls made changes in the way they utilize social media and what they use online to be more aware. And so a lot of our topics, even the beauty topic that we've done, the body image topic, you know, that's where we hit their heart and try to get them to see themselves the way God created them. But then you take something like online safety, it's very practical, but they need to see both sides. They need to practically live their life in a way that can keep them safe too.
You see it all with through the years that you've been doing this. One of the things that keeps popping up is the fact that how many girls are coming from really troubled homes. Things just aren't happy at home. You know, it could be a divorce, it could be a single parent thing, could be even some abuse going on. I'm sure you even see some of that. How do you help them with that? I mean, at the end of the day, you're kind of their connection to reality.
Right, right.
You know?
It's hard because we're not their parents, and we're not here to fix them.
Yeah.
We are here to point them to Christ, who can fix those situations and can mend broken hearts and give them hope. But one of the things that we try to do, especially on our family dynamics topic, to encourage them is we always have a speaker. We always have a woman that comes and shares her story from her past and how she's walking in victory. And so by putting a godly woman in front of them that walked that same road, maybe from a broken home. I'm a child of 4 marriages and 5 divorces. And so to be able to say, I went through that dysfunction and I went through those hopeless moments, but look, I'm walking with the Lord, I'm walking in victory, I have joy, it didn't ruin me. You know, and I think they have to learn how to take things day by day. Because I think with teenagers, they become so overwhelmed by that brokenness. Maybe their family isn't what they thought it would be, and they would just want to quit. And even when there's something tragic going on in their family, we want to kind of just pour into them, please don't quit. Let God work this situation out. And we've seen a lot of heartbreaking situations.
Are you coming to the end just of this season? That'll pick up again in September, and we'll keep you posted when Treva is going to announce the dates and the topics and all that. However, now you're going to let them go.
Right.
And that's got to be like, I don't know if I can do this. But on the other hand, the goal is to let them go with hope and excitement for the future.
Absolutely. And this Sunday, we're going to celebrate our graduates, our seniors.
Okay.
And we do a little something special for them, and we pray over them. And a lot of our seniors have been there all through high school. They've been at the Loft all through high school. So they have this wealth of wisdom and knowledge and fellowship and friendship that they get to take with them into college or whatever their future may hold. And we are going to continue to encourage them that we're here for them. And hopefully they take what God intended for them to take from this year. Every month there's so many nuggets of truth that they can grab hold of.
Do girls have hope?
Some of them do. And some of them want hope from you. They want to know what you have for them. But then there's other girls that I think are so used to the drama or dysfunction of their life, they don't know any different.
Are they afraid of hope? In other words, is that going to let me down too?
I think so. I think so. How long will it last? Is it for real? You speak of this Jesus who loves me. So you tell me God loves me, but I'm not seeing it at home. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I know that they struggle in that. And I continually tell them, but if you don't quit over a long period of time, over your lifetime, you will see God work if you let him. But we do have some girls that don't want help. They do come. Maybe deep down they want that help, but they're a little bit too afraid to take that step of faith.
But on the other hand, you don't know what's going on, you know.
Right.
I mean, you're planting seeds.
Right, we're planting seeds.
You're planting seeds, and
Yes.
somebody else waters and somebody else harvests. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Well, I want to say thank you. This ministry, the Loft, is just incredible. And put this in the back of your brain. It'll start up in September, right?
Yes.
And it's for 8th grade through 12th grade girls. And maybe your daughter or a neighbor or friend or a relative can go to this. And let me encourage you to put this on your calendar starting in September. And it goes all the way through the school year. You meet once a month. And this Sunday is going to be the last one of this season. And if you've never attended, you can still go to this one and just show up at Community Bible Church at 5:30 and be a part of it. It is terrific.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can't wait. I don't know if you can repeat all the topics next year or refine them down, but
we will have new topics, some of the same core topics that we like to always dig into, but we will have some new topics and we switch things up. You got to keep it exciting for teenagers.
Of course you do. Thanks, Treva.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Hey, what a delight to have back with us today our good friend David Rubin. He's a former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and he's the founder and the president of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. And he's authored quite a few books. I'm sure some of you have read those books. And of course, the big one, the Islamic Tsunami, and his latest book, Sparks from Zion, and we'll talk to him about that. But recently in the news, in fact, we reported it yesterday on the Dove Morning News, that our own U.S. Supreme Court said that if you were born in Jerusalem, that wouldn't be recognized on a passport. Wow, how did this happen? David, good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Oh, good to see you, Barry.
Good to see you. Was that your grandson there with you?
That wasn't supposed to be on the screen.
Oh.
That's one of the perils of Skype.
Where are you? Where are we Skyping you in from?
From Shiloh, Israel, or Shiloh, Israel, as you guys would call it.
Shiloh, Israel. All right. Well, first of all, what do you think of the Supreme Court action on saying that we can't use Jerusalem? If you were born in Jerusalem, we couldn't put that down as your hometown.
Obviously, people here in Israel think that it's very absurd. When my children were born, they were given American passports because their parents are American citizens, and we have dual citizenship, Israeli-American citizenship, and because they were born in Jerusalem, so it says on their passport Jerusalem, but it doesn't say Jerusalem, Israel, because there is an order from the President of the United States and also the previous President of the United States that it cannot say Jerusalem, Israel on the passport. If somebody's born in Paris, an American citizen, it says Paris, France on his passport. If somebody is born in any other country for that matter, it says the name, the capital city, and the country. Only Israel, and only someone who's born in Israel's capital city, Jerusalem, it does not say Jerusalem, Israel. And the Supreme Court has backed that position from the president and also from President Bush before him, that Jerusalem does not have a country. It's sort of it's an island in the middle of nowhere.
Why do you think this is the case? Are you taking it as anti-Semitic?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the motivations of the president or the previous president. But it seems to me that it's really an issue of the pressure from the Muslim countries. We have this overall general issue right now. It's a general problem that the world is afraid to take a stand on something because they're afraid of what the Muslims are going to do. Okay, they're afraid the Muslims are going to riot. They're afraid that the Muslims are going to cut off the oil supply. They're afraid that the Muslims are going to scream Islamophobia at everybody. This is really what the problem is.
So in the end, by not recognizing Jerusalem, Israel, it some way validates Palestinians claiming Jerusalem as their capital.
Right. Well, that's the whole issue. And on one hand, those who supported this Supreme Court decision on the bench said that, well, it's not a question of our political positions. It's not a political position. The issue was whether the president has the right, has the authority under the Constitution to determine foreign policy. And they've got a point there. However, if we just take that position as it is, and then we look at the broader ramifications of the position, then we see that it's purely political as it plays out on the international stage. In fact, the Palestinian Authority is celebrating, saying this shows that Israel has occupied our country, Palestine. Even though we know that there's no country, Palestine, there never was a sovereign Arab country called Palestine. But anyone who challenges me on that, well, I challenge them to name one elected or non-elected leader from that ancient country, Palestine, or to show me the monetary currency of that ancient country, Palestine. There is no Palestine. There never was a sovereign country, certainly not an Arab country called Palestine. But they're going crazy. They're celebrating. It's a big celebration for them because to them, it's given them political backing for their position that Israel, which was a sovereign nation in this land for over 1,000 years, and has come home in the past century. So they're using this as political fuel to use it against Israel.
All right. So forgive me for asking this because I just don't know. Was there ever a time when the United States did recognize Jerusalem as as Jerusalem, Israel?
No. In fact, there is no country actually, I think El Salvador, interestingly, is the only country in the world that recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The whole Western world does not recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, even though it's the place where we were sovereign for over 1,000 years. It's the place where King David's capital was, his kingdom, the unified kingdom of Israel, stood with its temple in Jerusalem. King Solomon, the temple stood in Jerusalem. So King David established it, King Solomon built the temple, and it remained Israel's capital for hundreds of years.
So, do you think this could ever be reversed? I mean, if we had a president that said, yep, I'm going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, then the Supreme Court would have to turn around and say, we are behind the president because it's his action? Well,
that's the interesting question that's been raised about this, that I've been raising, that even though politically it appears to be a real problem for Israel, but if we look at things a little bit deeper, and I always believe in looking at things a bit deeper. We have an expression in Hebrew, hakol l'tovah, which means that everything is for good, and that there is always a little light in the darkness. And if we look at it and we examine the situation, we see, okay, the Supreme Court says that they have granted the president authority over foreign policy, that they're saying that Congress can't interfere in a decision like this. So I think that it's going to be very interesting as the presidential candidates start staking out their positions in the debates. You know, we have those 15 or so Republican candidates who are running. We have the Democratic side where we have Hillary and two guys who are going to get a few percent, unless Hillary keeps doing more corruption. But in any event, I want to see what all of these candidates on both sides of the aisle are going to be saying on this specific issue of Israel and Jerusalem. And not just we love Israel or we love Jerusalem from the Republicans. I don't want to hear that. And, you know, Israel is our only, is our strongest and only democratic ally in the Middle East. And I don't even want to hear that. I want to hear specifically what they are going to do to change to change the executive positions on the issues that matter to Israel. What is going to be their position on Jerusalem? Are they going to give an order? Will that president in the first week of office give an order that the U.S. embassy will be moved to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv? Is he going to take a stand that there will be no Palestinian state, no Arab Muslim state, that means, established in the biblical heartland of Israel? I want to hear them say that specifically. The only one who I've heard say anything specific is Mike Huckabee up to this point. And things that he said have been very good, but I'm sure that the other candidates will have what to say.
All right, before I take a break, and you've been in the country enough to know, you've been here, you've been live in our studio, and you probably have been on most of the major press outlets. Could this question be a question to the candidates during the debates? Will you recognize Jerusalem as the nation, or as the capital of the nation of Israel?
Well, I think that definitely should be a question in the debates. And I think since Fox News is the first debate, and they generally take positive positions on Israel, they're certainly not biased against Israel. I would hope that they would ask that question, and more than that, not just a question, will you recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, but what steps will you take to actualize that within your first few weeks of office? And it's not a complicated decision. Those steps are not complicated. They just have to give the order that the U.S. embassy will be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. They already have some property in Jerusalem that can be used for it, and they just have to give the order. They are just waiting. The consulary staff are just waiting for that piece of property to be turned into the embassy of the United States in Israel.
All right, let me take a quick break, and we'll be back with David Rubin live from, as he says, Shiloh, Israel. And we'll ask him about just what's happening over there now and what's happening from his perspective in the Middle East, since the president wants to send 450 more troops into Iraq. Really? Okay, we'll see what he has to say about that in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back with our good friend David Rubin, live from Shiloh, or as we say it here in the States, Shiloh, Israel. And he's also the president and the founder of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. I'll have him talk about that in a moment. Authored several books. Perhaps you read the Islamic Tsunami and his latest book, Sparks from Zion, which I want him to comment on in just a few moments. Here's a picture of it there on the screen. David, what's your take on the president sending 450 troops in?
Well, look, I think you know, the whole Iraq fiasco has truly been that a great tragedy, just poorly run from the beginning, and I blame President Bush for that as well. I think it was just poorly handled by President Bush, and then, of course, by President Obama. I think I don't think that you can turn a country into a democracy when it doesn't have a culture that stands with democracy, and you know, American interests, I think, have to be taken into account, and Western interests have to be taken into account, the interests of the free world. So when you go into Iraq, you try to create a unity government between the Shiites and the Sunnis, you're asking for trouble. There isn't one Arab country that has a unity government between Sunnis and Sunni and Shiite Muslims. It doesn't work that way in the Middle East. So I think it was a mistake from the beginning. I think that what was needed years ago was what is needed now, and that is to throw American support fully behind the Kurds, because the Kurds are the only force in the Middle East, aside from Israel, of course, that will stand with American interests, that will stand firmly with American interests. They don't fall into the Shiite Muslim divide, and they need to be supported. President Obama, unfortunately, isn't learning from the mistakes that have been made in the past, and he's just kind of playing around here and playing around with American lives, playing around with everyone else's lives here. It's just a total fiasco and an embarrassment to the great United States of America.
From your perspective there, being in Israel, what's the situation in Iran? I know that your intelligence watch it very close. All of our diplomacy and talk and lack of policy, they're still moving forward with the bomb. Do you have any idea how close they are?
Oh, they're very close. The talk in Israel is that some decisions are going to have to be made very soon. And the deadline on this agreement that Obama and Kerry are working full force in trying to get through, they're practically begging Iran for an agreement because they want to have some sort of legacy to go out of office with. But that kind of legacy they shouldn't want. To have a legacy of helping Iran to create a nuclear bomb is not a legacy that any politician should want to go out of office with. We in Israel are very, very concerned. This is a hardcore consensus issue in Israel. There's no right, there's no left when it comes to the Iranian nuclear bomb.
Tell us about Sparks from Zion.
Sparks from Zion is my latest book. It just came out a couple of months ago, and it's basically for people who are interested in Israel, who are interested in the Middle East, who are concerned about the plight of Israel and are concerned about the Islamic threat to the world. And it is a journey through Israel. You know, there are some people who are baffled about Israel. They hear about Israel in the news all the time. They read about it. They see it on the news, or they think they see what's really going on in Israel, but they don't. The problem is that the mainstream media is so biased that they don't get the full story. So what I do in my book, Sparks from Zion, is that I take the highlights of all of my blogs from IsraelNationalNews.com and all of my op-ed articles from the Jerusalem Post and IsraelNationalNews.com and other places, and I put them together in chronological form. I attach some biblical verses and other interesting quotes to them, and it tells the story of the past year and a half in Israel. Internal issues in Israel, the issues having to do with Israel and its neighbors, the so-called peace process, and the Islamic threat to the United States, to the Western world, to the free world, and of course to Israel.
All right, can they get a copy of that by going to davidrubinisrael.com?
That would be the best place. davidrubinisrael.com. Of course, Rubin is spelled R-U-B-I-N. I imagine you can get that up on the screen. And, this is the main current event issue today. And I think if you look at the presidential elections, where it says that is, along with the economy, the number one issue that Americans are concerned about today, that Islamic threat, the threat from Iran, the threat from ISIS, people are starting to realize that their freedoms are being threatened, and they want to do something about it. And hopefully, they'll do the first step, which is to get educated. And reading books like The Islamic Tsunami or Sparks from Zion, or any of my other books that people can get at davidrubinisrael.com will help people to really understand the ins and outs of these issues, what it really means for them, and it'll also help them to argue these issues with those who are on the other side of the political spectrum and taking ridiculous positions on the issues that are facing people today.
All right, davidrubinisrael.com. David, during the campaign, Prime Minister Netanyahu, of course, we were watching it over here, and it was a tight race, and he was going to lose and all that, and then he wins, and the numbers were very significant in his favor. But during the campaign, he said no two-state solution. Then he comes back and he apologizes for it. Where is it today? Because I don't see it happening, but it's still part of the rhetoric there.
Well, he unfortunately is a little bit wishy-washy on this issue, and he reacts to pressure too much. Obviously, the world came down on him. President Obama and John Kerry and all of the European leaders attacked him after he made that statement that the two-state solution isn't going anywhere. The whole concept of land for peace is flawed. I always say peace for peace is what's needed, not land for peace. There's no common sense in Israel handing over its biblical heartland to these Islamic terrorists, giving it to them, giving them sovereignty as a so-called Palestinian state in the biblical heartland of Israel. It makes no sense at all. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has sort of flip-flopped on the issue several times. But the fact is that his coalition, his governing coalition, is a right-of-center coalition. And if he goes forward in surrendering any more land from the land of Israel and giving it over to these Muslim terrorists, he can forget about his coalition. His coalition's going to fall apart.
He narrowly put that together, so hopefully it stays together for a while. I want to come back to our presidential campaign. You made mention briefly that Mike Huckabee might be the one who is expressing things that have encouraged you. And I know it's too early, and I'm not asking you to pick anybody, but are you seeing anything there in that Republican lineup that gives you hope?
As I told you, Perry, I would like to hear more specifics, and of course the campaign is just getting started. So these guys hopefully will be put on the spot in those debates, and let's really hear what they think about Israel, what they think about the Islamic threat. And the problem with politicians is that a lot of times they'll speak in very general terms. They won't get into the specifics, but I want to hear specifics. I would love to be a questioner at those debates because there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. And but I think that there is some hope. As I said, Huckabee has been very specific in standing with the biblical heartland of Israel when they've asked him if he stands for a Palestinian state, if he thinks there should be a Palestinian state. He says yes. He says, well, perhaps, but not within the borders of Israel, which makes perfect sense. I would like to hear every one of the candidates making that stand, taking that stand. And hopefully we'll hear it. I want to hear what Rubio thinks. I want to hear what Walker thinks on these issues. I'd like to hear what Ben Carson thinks. They're very good. These candidates are very good at speaking in general terms, but I'd like to hear more specific terms. And also Jeb Bush, when he starts running full force, that is, and declares his candidacy, I want to hear that he's going to take a sharply different position on this Palestinian state issue than his brother did.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important for these guys to get specific.
It goes back to our central question of our time together today, David, and that is, I think the key question that will absolutely set the whole policy for their administration, if they were elected, is whether or not they'll recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and move the embassy there. I mean, that has to be the beginning point for everything.
Now, I should point out here that President George W. Bush did, in his election campaign, say that he was going to recognize Jerusalem and move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. But then the pressure started from the Arab world, and he never followed through on it. So that's why I say there has to be an explicit promise to do so in the first couple of weeks of the administration. And then we can hold them to it clearly. It won't get lost in all the other issues. I want to hear a specific promise, a specific pledge to do so within a specific amount of time.
Very well said. All right, DavidRubinIsrael.com. Go there and order his latest book, Sparks from Zion. And there's a picture of it on the screen. And let me encourage you to get that book and familiarize yourself with all of his writings and the blogs and everything that he does. DavidRubinIsrael.com, and that's Rubin, R-U-B-I-N. David, thank you. When are you going to be back in the States?
Probably not coming back until near the end of the summer, but that still needs to be worked out.
Good to see you, my friend. Keep up the good work, and our prayers and thoughts are with you always.
Thank you, Perry.
All right. Sure. All right. Thank you. David Rubin, live from Israel this morning there. And again, he's also the president and founder of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. You may want to Google that and look at that. And it's a fund established to assist terror victims' children. And of course, he and his 3-year-old son were both wounded during a terrorist attack. So they put together the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund to help other children who have been wounded by some of these terrorist attacks. So anyway, again, Google's Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. And if you want to make yourself available to David's writings, especially his latest book entitled Sparks from Zion, go to DavidRubinIsrael.com. And you may also want to check out The Islamic Tsunami. That's one of his former books, also very powerful. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.